Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley and I'm your law enforcement translator. You guys, I'm a 13-year law enforcement veteran here to provide insight on these difficult topics, you guys. And you see the thumbnail. You know what we're discussing tonight, you guys. It's about Jayland Walker. Listen, I just reviewed 13 body camera videos in extensive manner. I took a lot of notes, you guys. I examined them from top to bottom. You guys, listen, there's a lot for us to dive into. I will provide some insight that no one else will probably be able to provide. You guys, I'm the only one on YouTube giving this level of information, you guys, impartial, unbiased. This channel, you guys, is all about facts over feelings. We're here to look at the evidence. We're not chasing the truth, you guys. We chase after the evidence over here. And as we know, there's still some information that we do not know about. But I'll be honest with you, the body camera says a lot. It says a lot, you guys, and we're going to dive into it. But before we get into that, you guys, listen, thank you to all my followers and subscribers. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Would love to have you part of this journey. Please join the channel if you're interested in supporting. Would love your support. I really appreciate it. Please hit the like button, you guys, and let's talk about this case. So what are my thoughts, you guys? At the end of this, 13 officers at the scene, 8 of them shot. Some of them shot maybe 3 times, some of them excessive to be 12 to 13, possibly 18, depending on what type of guns they have. We do not know at this time. I did an extensive review on a lot of them, and to be honest, as we saw with body camera number 1, same thing. Seems like he was the initial shooter, but at the same time, he emptied the clip. We're talking no trigger discipline. He was already on the ground and they continued to shoot him. There's no justification in that. Absolutely not. Body camera 2, we saw that as well. He shot after he hit the ground and continued to shoot him multiple times after that. There's no justification in that. Body camera number 3, shot him again while he was on the ground and continued to shoot him again. There's no justification in that. Body camera number 4 did not shoot at all. The officer did not shoot. Body camera number 5 shot approximately 3 times after he was already down on the ground. I don't see any justification in that at all. Body camera number 6, that officer had a rifle. He was running into the scene and he did not shoot at all. Body camera number 7, that officer did not shoot at all. Body camera number 9, it's unknown if the officer shot his weapon. He came into the scene with his hands out in a shooting stance, but I was unable to tell based on the body camera if he shot at all. Body camera number 10, for those who want to know, that's the black officer. That officer shot approximately 3 times and then he ceased fire, but Jayland was already on the ground, you guys. So I don't see that as being justified. And he was not the first to shoot, right? And this is another thing too. Again, these officers who are shooting so late, they're coming into the shooting so late. Someone is already, the suspect slash victim is already on the ground, not moving. And then you join in to provide more firepower where it's not needed. Body camera number 11, the officer had a rifle. He did not shoot at all. Body camera number 12, the officer shot approximately 3 times. This is the officer who was yelling, "Cease fire, cease fire." He shot 3 times and then he stopped. I believe those rounds he shot when Jayland was already on the ground. I don't see justification in that. Body camera number 13. This officer was the one who was shooting with one hand. He had taser in the other hand. He was shooting one hand. Now Jayland was up. He was standing upright in the moment he delivered that the initial shooting, but then continued to shoot while Jayland was on the ground. I don't see any justification in that, you guys. I absolutely do not. That is my initial review. I know I did not play the entire 13 videos, you guys. It is a lot. It's very difficult to watch. I will put a link in the description of this video for you to look and examine on your own if you choose to. But that is my quick assessment. There's a lot of things that can be said or argued on the officer's behalf, and there's a lot of things that can be argued against it. We're going to talk about that really quickly because I think it is important to go over. So I'm looking at this article and I picked out a couple things in here I think it's important to address. in reference to what they discussed. Excessive and unreasonable amount of force that was used on Jayland Walker. I agree 100%, you guys. What's the problem? The problem is one could argue that these officers looked at him and they treated him as if he was not human, as if he was not a person. This was a firing squad in every sense of the word, you guys. That's exactly what it looks like to me. So one of the things in the article talks about the police said that they fired their guns because Walker made a motion caused them to fear for their lives. We know that was coming. That is a legitimate argument. I think that is legit. I think that's a strong argument to make. But here's the problem with that again. There was no visible weapon, right? As officers, you have to identify the threat. That is part of the job, threat assessment. Making the motion to draw a weapon is very true. And so threat identification, you guys, again, there's this concept. The Supreme Court says ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. This is what's needed in order for an officer to use deadly force, right? Ability, what's the ability? You have to have a weapon. You have to have a way, a means to actually carry out said threat, right? Of deadly force or great bodily harm. This is true. What did he have? He had a gun, you guys. They all acknowledge it. We all know he had a gun. He used it already on the officer or officers during the chase, so they are well aware. Opportunity, what does it mean by opportunity? Is he in close proximity to actually carry out said threat? Well, with the gun, yes, the distance is not so relevant, right? So is he close enough to carry out said threat? Yes, he has a gun. He's close enough to use that gun on the officers. This is a fact. Of course, we know now, hindsight, that he did not have the gun on him. He left it in the car. All right. So now jeopardy. What is a jeopardy? What does the Supreme Court say about jeopardy? They say that you have to be in imminent danger, immediate danger of receiving. You have to be in imminent danger to receive an immediate threat of said weapon, right? That's the key. That's the key. And with those things aligned, officers are authorized to use lethal force on a suspect. Now, what's the problem here? He had no weapon in hand when he turned and presented himself to the officers. So one would argue that the officers really needed to identify said weapon. There was no threat assessment. You have to identify the threat. And it wasn't, you guys. That's the problem. Now, yes, can they argue that his motions, his behavior gave the appearance, gave the impression that he was drawing a weapon? Yes, that's a strong argument to make. Yes, they could do that. They could easily say he was manifesting the threat based on his movement and put the officer in fear for their lives. Yes, that's a valid argument. I could see that in the video. I can't see that personally, but I could see that argument being made from an officer's point of view. Mindful that the video on the body camera only shows you a certain perspective. It does not show you the real-time vision of said officer. That is a fact. And that has to be included when making these type of assessments, you guys. So the problem is now you have him. The officers are justified in this moment, right? He turns in a threatening manner and he's manifesting a movement that any officer can articulate and believe that a threat was going to form or be presented in that movement based off of the knowledge, training, and experience of the officer, you guys. This is a fact. In this moment, an officer can articulate and justify using lethal force in this moment. Yes, up until this point, the first person who pulled the trigger in this incident amongst 13 officers, you guys, is justified. Absolutely justified. You can argue that. I can argue that. Yes, in this moment, that first initial 3 shots, yes, justified. What is the problem here, though? When did this thing become unjustified? Well, the moment when everybody who decided to pulled the trigger more than once. Because what's the issue? The officer who felt a direct threat, the threat was directly aligned with said officer, was the one who pulled the trigger. Cool. Well, then what about the officer where he's actually in alignment with his back? Can he pull the trigger? Did he identify a weapon? What did he see? What did he not see? They have to be able to explain that. The problem is they can't justify that. They saw nothing. They couldn't. Some of these officers are running around with no flashlights. What did you see? Can you justify shooting a man when the threat was not in your direction? There's 13 police officers at the scene. Some of those officers were shooting after the fact, after he already hit the ground. You guys, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's a problem. Someone's going to have to address that. That's excessive. This looks like Breonna Taylor 2.0. Absolutely. Excessive. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. This is the problem. So now what do we have? Everybody at the scene damn near felt like they needed to pull the trigger. No discipline. No trigger discipline. What does that mean? That means being in a state of mind where you can see what's going on, right? You have great situational awareness, meaning that you see that he has no weapon in his hand. All 13 officers absolutely cannot say they saw a weapon because he didn't have one. He didn't have one. The first 3 shots are justified. Everything after that, those officers need to be held accountable, period. Anybody who shot him while he was on the ground needs to be held accountable. It's not a firing squad. They shot him as if it was a firing squad. How many times was he hit? We don't know. Some people say 60. We won't know until the medical examiner looks at what actually took place and examines the body properly. Why? Because entry and exit wounds could be counted as the same. What do we know about the guns? Again, for those who may have skipped ahead, what do we know about the guns? The guns, they're carrying Glocks, possibly 21s, possibly 17s, 9mm or 45s. We don't know. Depending on which one, they carry a different amount of bullets between 13 and 18. You guys, out of the 13 officers, 8 of them actually shot at Jayland. Some shot 3 times. Some shot all of their rounds out of the gun. One of the officers dropped the magazine. He shot the entire gun. Possibly. Emptied his gun. You guys, in the video, Jayland drops immediately. At 3,700 hours and 36 seconds, the guns go off. 3,700 hours and 47 seconds, they stop shooting. You're talking about approximately 7 seconds of gunfire from 8 police officers, non-stop. One officer is saying, cease fire, and officers on the side of him are shooting still as he's on the ground. Not justified. Not justified. Sympathetic fire is what they're going to say. Fear for my life is what they're going to say, you guys. This is poor training is what that sounds like to me. Extremely poor training. Some say this is racist. Honestly, I did not see anything in there that would suggest this was a racist shooting. You can't make that assumption without having enough evidence. That's just the reality of it. What else are the normal questions? What else are people going to ask? If he was white, this would not have happened. You guys, this has happened to white people as well. All right. I tell people all the time on this channel, we are going to chase after the evidence. You don't ever chase after the truth. The truth will lead you in the wrong direction. The truth could be based on your own assumptions. It could be biased. This is impartial, you guys. I'm giving you the facts. I'm giving you what we know. We're not going to make gross assumptions. We're just not. I've seen these things happen to white people as well. Shot indiscriminately has nothing to do with color. Now, one could argue a couple things, you guys, but until we get more of the information out, we're gonna go based off of what we see. And honestly, this was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. Innocent until proven guilty, right? So we're gonna look at everything before we call it what it is. In conclusion, you guys, one thing that I have noticed about this too, these type of shootings, people want to compare and contrast, right? Shootings from maybe Texas, mass shootings, shootings from the subway, shootings from school shootings, and they say, hey, how is it that these incidents happen and the suspect gets apprehended? It's a white suspect who does this, and he's apprehended without being hurt, without being injured. You got the school shooting, and these officers didn't even do their job. How come this and how come that? You guys, listen, I understand what you're saying. I get how you feel. But again, it's a feeling. But when we're talking about the facts don't care about the feelings. What are the facts, you guys? Every situation is not the same. You cannot compare and contrast something that happened in California to something that happened in Texas to something that happened in New York to something that happened in Georgia and then something that happened in Alaska. You absolutely cannot. They're all different situations, different circumstances, different police officers, different training. Racism, not racist, racist, not racist, egos, no egos, religion, non-religion. There's so many variables. Every situation, you guys, has to be examined as an individual situation. There's too many moving parts to compare different situations together with each other. You just can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. All right. What we are examining has to be examined by itself, because for every situation you show me, I'll show you one of the opposite. I can counter everything you bring to the conversation. Let's focus on this particular shooting, and let's not conflate this shooting with any other shooting involving a police officer. It doesn't work, you guys, and it derails the conversation, and it gets us off into an emotional tangent. So what are we looking at? In these situations, you guys, in conclusion, you have two problems. You have the individual and you have the police officer. This is a fact. Two independent individuals, the cop and the person. What's the reality, you guys? Choices. Choices, actions, and behaviors. As a citizen, regardless of your color, the reality is the choices that you make in a particular situation. On the grand majority of these things, it all comes down to choices, you guys. How do we avoid these situations? You guys, you know, on my channel, I'm all about the solution. How do we prevent this from happening? Choices. A lot of these situations and shootings happen because someone is resisting arrest. You guys, the over majority of these happen because someone is resisting arrest, violating the law, refusing to cooperate. You guys, I say it all the time, comply to survive. How do you fix it? You comply to survive, you guys. There's no way around it. There's absolutely no way around it. If you want to avoid this situation, you have to comply, whether you're right or wrong. Whether you're right or wrong. The problem as individuals, you guys, is this. You always can control your choices, but you'll never be able to control the consequences, you guys. That's the reality of this situation. Control your choices. You are the only person in control of you, nobody else. You cannot control the actions of an officer. You just can't. You can't. And when you try to gamble with these officers out here, you guys, it's like Russian roulette. It's not worth it. You want to hope that this officer is trained well enough to bring you back alive. You guys are not obligated to. And if you just so happen to put one in fear for their life, you guys, they're justified by law in taking yours. They're not obligated to die trying to save you. They're just not. That's the law. That's the law, you guys. They are law enforcers. It has nothing to do with protecting and serving. They protect their life. They serve their interests. That's the reality. The interest is public safety. But their safety as officers comes first. It comes first. What's the issue with police, you guys? Untrained, unprofessional. They're coddled by society. Their egos influence a lot of the decisions. Not all officers are bad and not all of them are good. Not all of them are racist. but not all of them are empathetic to people's situation. Listen, you have some officers that aren't racist. You have some officers that are racially insensitive. That's a fact. And they come in all colors and sizes. You have some officers that are just not good at the job, period. You have some officers that are overzealous looking to pull the trigger. And you have some officers that are always looking to preserve life. No police officer is created equal. No police department is created equal, you guys. Play if you want to. This is a fact, you guys. What is the issue with some of these officers? The problem with this country and how we look at officers, we coddle them. We give them a handicap all the time. This is true. Officers are given the benefit of the doubt. That's the reason why you can lean on fear for my safety, fear for my life. Officers are given why? Because it's a hard job. We don't lean on training. We lean on the fact that the job is hard. That's an excuse. That's an excuse. When society is asking you to do better and you say, I can't because the job is hard. The problem with police, you guys, in this country is that the police want the responsibility of a God, but the accountability of a child. And we see that in this video, you guys. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner. But why would the officer stop if you do not hold standards and hold them accountable? It's unacceptable. One could argue that there's a percentage of this incident that is in fact justified, you guys. Absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree there's a percentage that's justified. But the rest of it is not. Can that be true? Absolutely can be true. Absolutely can be true. Honestly, what this looks like to me is a justified response to an action with several unjustified reactions to a response. A justified shooting that led to several unjustified shootings. Anyways, you guys, let me know your thoughts. I know this was a lot. I'm gonna have to break this video in half just so that those who don't want to go through seeing the body camera footage, I will split this video in half for you guys. Listen, please leave your thoughts and your comments under the video. I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are new to the channel, please support the channel. We're trying to grow the channel. Would love your support if you like this content. I hope that you found this information informative, you guys. I know this was extremely difficult to watch, extremely difficult to process, and I would like to hear your thoughts. Listen, we're going to do a live stream on this. Most likely going to be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll give you an opportunity to call up, ask any question you like, respond to this video as well. And, you know, again, keep the family in your prayers, you guys. This was extremely horrific, very barbaric, extremely unacceptable, and grossly excessive. So, you know, very unfortunate. With that, you guys, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. Good night. God bless.